Welcome to Building a Powerhouse Brand. I'm Jackie Laws, brand strategist, mentor, designer, author and founder of brand agency Bailey & Rue. My mission for this podcast is to support other women to build a magnetic personal brand and a business that allows you to have both financial and time freedom. Building your personal brand is not just about those visuals, it's about setting the stage as the real you and a magnet for those dream clients. Join me and my incredible guests as I dive into the strategies, insights, and stories behind building a successful brand. Whether you're an entrepreneur, a marketer, or simply intrigued by brand building, this podcast is your roadmap to success. Tune in each week as I explore branding, innovation, and influence, and join me on this adventure as we unleash the power of personal branding. Visit baileyandrue.com for more insights and follow me on Instagram at baileyandrue. This is Becoming a Powerhouse Brand. Hi guys, and welcome to another episode of Becoming a Powerhouse Brand. I'm so excited today because I have the lovely Natalie Potts on here to interview her about her journey into becoming a powerhouse brand herself. Natalie is an accredited messaging strategist, mentor, coach, podcaster, and speaker, and I'm really excited to have her on the podcast to talk all about her journey and the importance of messaging. So Natalie, welcome to the podcast. Thank you so much for coming on. Could you please tell us about you and your journey into what it is that you do now?
Of course. So first of all, thank you for having me. It's an absolute pleasure to come in here and talk with you. So what do I do? What did you just ask me what I do, right?
Yeah,
I'm
like about your journey.
my journey. Wow. It's always a bold question, isn't it? I um I have many, many years in the corporate world. So I joined as a kid to a big retailer when I was about 16. And I wanted to be in acting actually. I always did drama degree and everything. And then they said you need to be a mature student, and because I started earning some money, I liked that, and I was like, no, this is going quite well for the minute, let me push this. And of course, like anything where you say, look, I won't be staying, I got offered a leadership program, and then I just stayed. So I did very well at it, and I always say my success was pretty linear, because like nothing's really linear anymore in the same
Yeah,
way. And I just did very well at it. I loved it. I loved being with people. I loved having accountability of people at a young age and running teams and challenges and overcoming them, learning new things. Like business and personal growth really was always a big thing for me in personal development. So I stayed with that retailer for, like I said, 19 years. And I also started doing my coaching qualifications. It's probably about 2015 I started doing that, because I was going for another level of leadership and I was told I wasn't a great coach. And I was like, I'm not having
that's
that.
what you want to hear.
Yeah, as you're not very good at coaching, you tell people what to do. And I was like, well, what is this coaching stuff? So we were going into it as a business anyway, looking at it more for leadership programs. And I just thought, right, I'm going to go and do my own thing then and find out more about it. Join a coaching academy. Just again, when you go to something, you're like, this is for me. Like it
Yeah,
was that whole going into Wayne Dyer, the law of attraction. I'd never experienced any of that side of the world almost. And I just loved it. I loved the people I was around, which I love in the business I have now, is the people you can choose to be with. And it just felt right. And I was starting to look at stuff like purpose and vision and values, and people were asking me all these questions like, what are your values? And I was like, I don't know. So I went into that and I did personal performance coaching, and then I guess quite safely as well, I stuck with doing corporate coaching, because I just didn't know where I wanted to take it. And at uni, they
yeah,
always said, like, never put your eggs in one basket. So I'm always conscious of that. However, you do need to lean into kind of more than one thing. But anyway, did all the qualifications, did really well in that. Won CPD Coach of the Year in 2019, which was great. And then was going to go for the next level in leadership again. And it was tougher then. And like, this is a few years back. And I didn't get through with directors on the sign-off period after 6 months sign-off period. So it was a long
yeah,
process, like loads of regional teams and everything signing me off for different things up to that. And I kind of said to my boss, this isn't the life I want for myself anymore. This is the life you expect for me. And it's not fun. I was like, I don't want another 30 years in the corporate world, and I don't enjoy it and I don't love it,
definitely.
because I do give everything, and it's your life and business, and that is, you see these people more than you see your friends and family.
Yeah,
So then I guess when you get anything in your head, I was like, that's it, I'm done. And I started speaking to different people, and my dad's always a very strong mentor of mine. And he was like, I think, no, this is it. It's done. Like, you just need to take the risk. And
Yeah.
I mapped out a strategy to leave. And that was really around the big fears of, I guess, fear of success, but also the fear of failure. And then what did I need? And if, the security of money always coming in and going out. And I saw online, like we know, you go and it all looks beautiful and the highlights and smoke and mirrors. And I was like, I don't have anybody to fall back on financially for things. I just have myself to pay the mortgage and everything.
Yeah.
So I needed that in place for me to be able to do that jump and take that risk, because it is. And I don't think I think I underplayed that and didn't see it enough at the time. I do see that in hindsight now and through other
Yeah.
people on their experiences and journeys, that I did what most people will never do, actually. And that led me into starting a coaching business, invested in a mastermind, and then I went into another mastermind, and that very quickly turned into strategy. My mentor Lisa's great on all of that. And that's when I kind of had again a bit of a wake up moment of working with the right people and saying, like, I'm very good at strategy, yes, coaching, but I love strategy. What I've done, like in retail, was like, there's a problem, fix it. You do X,
Yeah.
Y, Z, you go. And I again, like, you don't realize that. And the point to your question around journey is that, like, it's never just going to make sense, or it's just going to be the part of going on something and exploring and loving it and being curious
Yeah.
and letting things just unfold, opposed to lots of people want the certainty of, is it going to work? And it's like, just go for it and try it,
Exactly. I
fail,
love
make mistakes, have fun, and see where it takes you.
Exactly. I love that. And I think it's so interesting because so many people, when they start their own business, that they might not realize it, but you bring in a lot of experiences that you've had from your corporate job into what
Yeah.
you're doing.
100%. I'm always saying to people, I work with a lot of male and women, male and female, to be honest, because I've never differentiated, because the corporate world was so male dominated. I
Yeah.
was the only female, actually, in peers of, there was 20 of us. And that was for a company that's apparently diverse and inclusive. And I was like, this is 2022 and I'm the only female in this senior leader role. This is weird. But the point being there that I work with people in their similar ages, late 20s, but 30, 40s. And I'm like, you're not a bloody newbie. I was like, we're not talking that you've just left university. You're very new, raw. I was like, you've got so much experience and knowledge. And I was sharing it with my community today. I said, you've all got stacks of skills.
Yeah.
Go in on that skill. And I met a guy who does a book, Solve You're Happy, and my Gordon.
Yeah.
He's done a new book. I met him yesterday for this book that he's launching, and just an incredible guy. And he was talking again around the idea of championing your skills and that one skill and leaning all in. And I like Stephen Bartlett a lot. He talks about stacking skills and things, because people can never take those away from you. Like you just shared there, that experience of leading people and that corporate world. And it's like, retail's really tough, and it's known for being that.
Yeah.
I always say that, like, the hardest things often NHS, working with kids in education, and then working with adults as well. Like a
Yeah.
pet, the vets don't come into it. Looking after animals is easier than managing people. It's tough.
Yeah.
It's challenging. So you learn a lot from that. And I think people downplay, and it's a Brit thing. We're pretty sensitive, and we just don't talk about our strengths and what we're great at. We're not big and audacious enough. And I really think,
Yeah.
talking about branding, that's certainly something I'm leaning into this year a bit more, is going, actually, no, I am great at this.
Yeah.
I'm great at
Exactly.
that, but this is what I'm great at. Let's do it.
Yeah. I think it's so interesting, isn't it? I think like a lot of the people I work with tend to have kind of fallen into what they're doing because
Yeah.
they've had a transition in their life, like they've decided to have children and have had to leave that security of having a full-time job. And you instantly in your head, because you think, well, I've got to start my own thing. I've got to start from the bottom and be like a hobbyist, essentially. Like they almost forget that they've got all this incredible experience from their corporate job, that actually they could do what they have been doing just in another way. And I think it's so interesting when you speak to people that have kind of fallen into what it is that they're doing and created their own business. And they really are like, they're starting from the bottom. They feel like
Yeah.
they're not worthy of having this kind of success because they've never had their own business before. And actually, you could quite easily start a new business from scratch. And yes, you might not have the experience in terms of being an entrepreneur and working with people for you, but you've got perhaps like decades of experience under your belt in what it was you were doing before that. So yeah.
Yeah, and that, look, 100%. And it's all just fears. It's fear of judgment. It's
Yeah.
this is the strongest one. It's fear of the failure, and then the judgment that comes with the failure. And it's also the fear of success and what that brings as well, and how people will judge you. So like judgment being the strongest one with all of those as well. But I think there's a lot, and a lot of the work I'm doing right now is a kind of around the brand identity piece. And that's the work I'm leaning into. And it's challenging because when we lean into work on ourselves, and it's why I talk a lot in my secondary messaging about fitness, it's hard. And I use that because I always say business is simple, not complicated as much as we make it. And
Yeah.
we usually say that in retail, that I could get systems for so many things, and actually if the system worked perfectly and run and a human being didn't intervene, it wouldn't be a problem. The A to B would be simple. You
Yeah.
make it complicated because you intervene.
Yeah.
And that's generally a status quo business, but it doesn't make it easy. It is hard and it is challenging. And I think sometimes that narrative is not coming out enough
Yeah.
because people are worried again about, well, what that means. And it's like, there are times when you've got to kind of suck it up, and you will have to work longer hours, or you will have to commit more. And I wish, again, that was the same in business. Easter and Christmas, at times I used to get leaders come to me and say, on my team, and when's my next level of progression, or when am I going to this role? And I was like, it's Christmas time. Have an
Yeah.
amazing Christmas, deliver, and we'll have the conversation in 3 months' time. If you said that to someone in business now about getting a result in 3 months' time and they want it now, it's like, what? But that's how business is. And
It's so true.
it's just that we lack a lot of patience, and all of this comes down to mindset and attitude with things as well. And I think that, yes, we do have those skills that we can absolutely amplify that we have within us, but we always have to be complementing that with going on a journey of discovering ourselves, learning ourselves. I'm always working on money
Yeah.
mindset every single day.
Yeah.
I will say something around like, I can do this. My little weird thing I do, which I often only tell my clients, but I jump around the living room for any sales call or anything like big related to money. And I do like the Jerry Maguire stuff. I'm like, show me the money. Because I have to visually, and how I learn, get into a certain, I guess, like dynamic style and energy for sure. And sales is all around energy. So I just have to get into that momentum to be in the right zone to do that. And we
Yeah.
all have our little things, but I'm always working on money mindset. I'm always working on my mindset, personal growth, fitness. So I'm, showing up for myself and then my clients. And those things are hard.
Yeah, they are hard. And it's so interesting because that's something that I've been talking about a lot, is actually working on you, because you can't
Yeah.
build a brand unless you've worked on you first and you know what
Yeah.
you want, your goals, all of these kinds of things. And mindset is such a key piece. And I think it's so interesting, isn't it? Because that's never done. It's never like, oh, I've worked on my mindset, I don't need to do it anymore. It is an ongoing practice. Like you
Yeah.
say, with the fitness, you have to keep at it as a routine. You can't just do a load of exercise, lose weight, tone up, and then you don't have to do anything ever again. It is an ongoing daily routine that has to be a necessity.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. And it is a branding, because it's who we are. And again, what's so core around that is, and it's like when I do messaging with people, I did it the other day and somebody was talking around, I've done this and this message, and I was like, no, that's just content. I said, let's really, go deeper into this, like under the surface, because who are you? Like, why you? And I know sometimes I can hate that question, but we all at points. But I said to her, like, come on, what really differentiates you? What's the identity? What's your
Yeah,
vision? What's your mission? Because that's not coming through. And that, if you haven't done that work, that's fine. But again, we've got to know that stuff in you first, then your ideal client, then your offers and that. I said, but we're jumping to, you want to just make sales, but the lack of understanding there, because you haven't done the foundational work, is holding you back. And that's,
yeah,
you have to go back and do that work. And so I say to people, who think it's just a message, is just getting a post out or just doing this, or I talk about this, it's like, no, it's so much more than that. It's you, it's
100%.
what you stand for, it's what you believe in, it's what you don't stand for. It's talking about things with confidence, conviction, with passion, with purpose, being genuinely authentic. There's some great news out currently in a minute, and I posted about it yesterday. There's one on Apple, and they've said that they've just had to apologize with the advert marketing they put out around the iPad, the new tablet coming out, because they've essentially got, you can still see on YouTube, but they've got like, it's squashing down, it's like a machine that squashes down all of these I guess amazing things that have happened in our lifetimes. Even things like, maybe like, I guess I remember my brother, Pokemon or something like that was
Yeah,
successful, or like a certain old TV, or for me, I would have had a tape recorder. But they're squashing it all. And the criticism is that it's almost taking away the beauty of art and everything that people have achieved within that time, and we're just squashing it now. And AI
Mm.
is actually, that's a risk for us about how we can be really authentic in our true selves and humans when computers are getting involved and they're just squashing it as such. They obviously didn't want that message, but they've literally had to apologize for that. And these are big companies that,
Yeah,
again, can become complacent. I've seen it working in retail. They get very complacent, think they know everything. It's like, again, you're not listening to what people want, what people
yeah,
need. And again, like really going back to your roots, and you're taking that for granted. And even the other one I heard on the news yesterday, GB News, which I love to hate that broadcasting program, but they were talking about Meghan Markle and saying that she's got this new jam out and it's going against the jam with the king and his brands and things. And people are now throwing, oh, this is a king's jam, and putting all of that out there. And again, like, this is a whole identity piece, it's all branding. But the association with Meghan's stuff is here, is that people aren't buying it because they don't trust it. They don't see her as authentic. And
yeah,
therefore, this is a part of that's the branding. They don't trust her. They
yeah,
don't think it's authentic. And it's going to impact where she goes with that. And that's the groundwork that she hasn't done yet, because she hasn't realized that she's lost that with people. She's lost trust. She's lost any
yeah,
loyalty she had, not in all areas. And again, this isn't get political or topical, but it's to give the root of, we've got to do that work first on ourselves. And like you said, the mindset, all of that, and then build from that.
exactly. And I think, like you say, you can have the most amazing business with the most amazing strategy and everything, but you
Mm.
can't just expect to throw something out there and people will bite your hand off for it. Like you've got to do that inner work, haven't you, to believe in it yourself?
Yeah, and look, I do it with more one-to-one in terms of when I work with people on this, but I do talk a bit about leadership principles as well on things, because that was a lot of the work I did as a leader, is that you lead people, you take them on a vision, you take them on a journey. I used to call it like, who's on my boat with me, and like, we're gonna have a party, and if you're not on it, jump off the side.
Yeah,
Because we're all together, we're positive, we're driven, we're on a vision, we're working together, we're a team. There's no one like, I'm leading it, but there's no one just at the front, we're all together on this.
yes,
But naturally, that part of leadership principles and the stuff that's also not being said, like being able to understand where people are at, tone, energy, and you'll know those leaders who have really inspired in the world. And I'm sometimes saying like, who's someone you'd love to meet, or whether that's kind of dead or alive. But I always think like Steve Jobs is one for me. And what was, it's things like charisma, it's the fact that they had a bite about them. Not
yeah,
everybody liked them on things. They challenge certain things all the time, but they also had very good morals, and they had very good values. And it's those things that are really important. And it's, like when I think back to leadership and being with teams, and I think there's some people I had that I had to kind of feed into, and some of them are boring. I know it sounds really rude, but they were just every time. I remember one boss once, and I saw his car in a car park, and I'd be like, oh God, that's my
yeah.
like, but
We've
we
all
all
had
know of
that,
these
haven't
people.
we?
But then we'd have other leaders, and we'd be like, oh my God, they're in today. It's going to be an amazing day,
Yeah,
because it's just them. It's a charisma. So again, people talk about all these different things. I need offers, and this is like, well, how do you show up? Like, where's
yeah,
your consistency is a big one, which I talk a lot about messaging with fitness, and I think it's pretty boring, but people can't stay consistent. Yet consistency shows so much for businesses, because it's important. Or if I send a message, do I get back to every person, or do I ignore them? Because that sets the tone. That's
yeah,
the reputation piece. All these little things are really important to think about when you're running and building a business.
absolutely. So, what drew you to specialize in brand messaging?
So if I'm really honest, it's one of those ones where I went with the whole doing what everybody else does, and last few years it's a bit of experimentation and seeing, like building a business from one to one to then group and step by step. And then I just realized last year, I was like, this isn't really sitting with me. There's something internally where it just feels like it's what everyone else is doing.
Yeah,
And how do I again differentiate myself? And we can't see sometimes our gift or our genius. It's just, and it sounds really, it's quite vulnerable to always say. When I was saying it with a friend last night, she was like, I said to her a few things that I see in her, and she's like, I just don't see it. She goes, but it's so interesting because somebody else has said that recently as
yeah.
well.
You
It's
can't
about
see it
her.
when it's you, can you?
Right, with mentoring and stuff. And I said, you might need to lean into this a bit more now. And she says, why do you say that? And we went into it, but you don't see sometimes what you're great at. And or you push it down again, you kind of shut it off. And because it's quite scary as well at
Yeah,
times. And it's one where I went to my mentor and I was like, this is, it's not sticking. I need more of a one thing, but that is also different to other people. What do you see in me? And, you ask those to people that you trust. You ask that to people where you've got a good relationship as well. And you also have one where you can have a, high support, high challenge conversation on that. Because I was like, well, what is it? And it's my mentor, Lisa Johnson, who I always talk about. Is she's been an amazing support in my life. And again, like my criticism of her is, and I tell her, I was like, you don't shout about what you're great at enough. I was like, because you've done so much amazing work. She was like, I know. I was like, no, but you don't. And that's because she's just very genuine. But she was like,
Yeah.
messaging. She goes, I just think there's something there with you with this and what I see. And so then it's been someone else I shared that with as well. My friend Victoria said, she was like, you just help me with my messaging, so like, you just nail it like that. And I was like, I don't see it. So it's that coming together, and it's that step by step, and it's been really uncomfortable and challenging at times, because I still don't, I've looked at, well, what does that mean? Why me? How, like, what challenge will I get? What judgment will
Yeah.
I get? And you just have to go for it. Sometimes it's not going to be perfect. It's not going to be nailed at the start, but actually I've got a very strong system with it. It works. I've got credibility with, like I just shared, the stuff of bringing in leadership with it. And if people would challenge me, I think, okay, well, this has been my answer to it, but if it's not for you, it's not for you.
Yeah.
And it's just been one of those where it's felt more me. It's my ability to bring in coaching, strategy, and everything that I've done, like we said earlier, the skill sets. And it really draws back to the things I love, which is the foundational stuff of and tapping into the personal as well as the business side of development.
Yeah, I love this so much. Like, I'm all about building that personal brand. And I think so many
Yeah.
people jump ahead, don't they? They jump ahead into, right, I've got a business, I'll do my logo, my website, and then I'm just going to jump straight into putting these offers out there. And they miss this massive piece of building their brand that makes them magnetic to their dream clients. And even when you haven't got to that stage of knowing who that dream client is, there's still so much that you need to work on in order to like speak to people that need what it is that you're offering.
Yeah, and it's an interesting one, because again, it goes back to a bit like I shared earlier of the Mo conversation of the champion your one thing. And that often comes out when they say success leaves clues. You look at people who are in places where you want to be, and you get in those right ponds where you're the small fish and you feel
Yeah.
uncomfortable. But they all say about they had their one thing, and lots of people hate that. I rebelled it for too long. I really do probably I don't regret that, because I don't regret things, but I did challenge it for a long, where I just should have sucked it up and gone like more niche, but then it just didn't sit right either. And I
Yeah.
think I'll often say to clients, this is uncomfortable for you to hear, but you've got to know your niche. We can work through it together. I can help you, but you have to have it sit right within you as an intuition part. I cannot give that to you, because if I just tell you, which is what I had years ago with with a coach actually, and it just didn't sit right. She was like, you just need to do this. And it wasn't, it's different to Lisa saying, I see this in you, and me going with that and being curious and listening in the right
Yeah.
way. And I guess, like I said, like I trusted that relationship, and I didn't probably trust that coach enough years ago. So it's all learnings. But you've got to really think about what are you really great at and find the one thing, because it doesn't just mean it's just branding you do. I'm very clear, it's not. Messaging is different to branding, and messaging is different to copywriting, but of course it entails some of that, the
Yeah.
same as, I've got an amazing friend, Georgia, who does brilliant work with branding, copywriting as well, and her work is very different to what I do. But of course there's always areas where it complements and it blends and it can come together. But you having your one thing and shouting about that, and then of course it can just even be the one thing in the market that you serve. Not, it doesn't just be the method, it's the who,
Yeah.
and that brings together then the branding piece of who you work with. So like you said, there's so many components and ways that you can do this. You've got to find out what's right for you with what you're building.
100%. So what would you say to somebody that was looking to maybe take that pivotal point in their business where they've been chugging along, doing all of the things, and they're now ready to build their personal brand, they're doing that inner work. Like, how would somebody start with creating messaging that is aligned to what it is that they want, the direction they're going, and like who they're trying to speak to? Like, what would be the very first thing you would encourage them to do?
There's a couple of things there. The first is you've got to start, like we said, the parallels of the work on you. And with that, a question I love to ask is, what are you avoiding right now? like really leaning in, and it's as simple as, and people don't do this because again they want to make it more complicated, get a piece of paper and write it down. Like that scientifically in how we learn has a different impact on us. So
Yes.
write it down. What are you avoiding right now? Why are you avoiding that? Again, people don't like the question why. It was always in coaching and I was like, well, I love it. So I get it, it's tone and it can be met with negative, but why are you avoiding those things right now? Because that will give you the path to growth and navigate you to. But then with that, the sides of what I talk through with my system that I've got is we look at the part of the personal you, your leadership, your CEO mindset. Then it is you've got to really know your client, who you're speaking to. What are their, and again, people don't do it enough. They don't
Yeah.
literally go into the DNA of what musicals would they go to? What music do they listen to? Do they go to the gym? What do they do on a Sunday morning? What's important to them? What are their values? You've got to know like the DNA of your ideal client
Yeah.
inside out. Not just the things that keep them up at night, like what's really said. And I always use the analogy of fitness because it's so easy, but someone doesn't want to just lose weight to feel better in clothes. It's more than that. I always say like they want sex with the lights on. They
Yeah.
want to wear that bikini on the beach and have guys wink or go, "Oh, you look amazing," even though they're happily in love with their fella. Like just literally be really honest with yourself.
Yeah.
What it is you say in your head, because again, that's the stuff that we're not really digging into. It's got to be deeper. It can't just be surface level of, oh, I just want to look good on Instagram. No, it's more than that. Like,
Yeah.
what is it? It's I want to go to my son playing football and join in at the end of the game and not be out of breath and think the other dad's looking at me and laughing, or I just can't do that at all. Like, I don't want that. I want my health. It's really lean into those challenging things of what is it, the problems and the pains of your ideal client, what they really want, so you speak to them. So your copy, when we come to that side of things as well, and what you put out there in your messaging is that's me. Like,
Yeah.
and I've had that for clients. I remember years ago someone said, why me? And I was like, well, what you've just written there is me. That's where I'm at. And that has to speak to someone in that way. So we've got to know the problems and then what your ideal client really wants, the real dream outcome of that as well. Again, the stronger vision piece, the identity piece that they want with that, who they're looking to become. Again, those questions that we don't often lean into. And then we look at things like the offers around that and making it be right for you as a business and sustainable. But it also has to be right for your client and your market. And we have to listen to the supply and demand. We put lots out there. It's like, who wants it? And even
Yeah.
when people say I want it right now, we're still seeing people say, well, people said they wanted it and I created it and no one's buying it. And it's like, it's not enough. Like,
Yeah,
we need to do
exactly.
more data research than that and we need to be more focused and understand that. We need to be more curious. And it's at the moment I've got a pilot program out for messaging because I'm transparent with people. I said, we've got to experiment more. The
Yeah.
landscape of business has changed. We don't have the level of certainty we had. We've got to just try different things, see what works and doesn't, and take the right people on that journey with us and fail faster at stuff. And that was very much exposing COVID work in retail, that we used to have 12 weeks to launch something. And then that hit and they were just like, you got a week, launch it, and then give us a feedback. And we were like that was, again, it was the uncertainty that, well, we don't do it that way. And it's that was awful for people. But then, like anything, like the mask thing, like over time, that becomes the norm. And then coming out of the masks is not the norm because we
Yeah.
just get used to things because we're habitual, we're creatures, habits are creature and all that, all creatures of habit. But we just get used to those things. So we have to really understand the right offers, the pricing point with that. But why are you creating an offer and a pricing? And what's that linked to where you want your business to be? And it's not
Yeah.
now a year, it's 3-5 years down the road. And some people struggle with that side of vision and can't think more than a year. So, but we need to. We've got to do that for building something longer term. And then of course sales is a massive piece, and lots of people don't like sales, and like I love sales. I used to hate it, but I love it, and it's a disservice not to salespeople. So it's embracing sales. So those are the core aspects. So I think if you're looking to start it, like do the inner work part first, look at what you're avoiding, and then think about, like, do you really know your ideal client like really,
Yeah.
really well? And actually knowing in your head versus, sometimes the most uncomfortable places to go to a networking event and they're like, what do you do?
Yeah.
And I elevate people's messaging and make more money. What do you do? And it just gets the cogs turning. I don't rock up and go, I'm a strategist.
Yeah.
What does that mean to somebody. It doesn't
Yeah.
get them thinking. And we're here to get people to think differently in business and see the world differently. So yeah, I hope I've answered that in that
Yeah,
way.
definitely. And I think you talking about really uncovering who that ideal client is, obviously that will change as your business grows and as you
Yeah.
build in more offers and your business changes. But it also helps you to uncover that authenticity that is really aligned to you. And obviously that messaging piece has to be unique to you. You can see all these other people doing what it is that you do and saying all these things, and you might see the same words popping up here, there, and everywhere, but actually really tapping into who you are and what's important to you, your values, and who you want to be working with, and the transformation you want to help people with is what's going to really help you to stand out with that authentic, like messaging piece.
You bang on. I think people look at it like it's a nail it job done, and it's
Yeah.
always evolving and changing. And we're definitely seeing that when you look at, again, the landscape of people did very well in COVID. I don't use the word they were lucky, they were fortunate in the timing, and it worked. I found it challenging because I was in retail at the time, and the only thing I could keep really going was my podcast, and that's when I
Yeah.
started that. Like, if I'm going to do one thing in the building a business, what is it? But my hours were just in that, which is part of the reason for leaving. But with, it's always evolving and changing, and that's important to, again, have the peace with that and see it as fun. It doesn't have to be just job done, and lots of people are seeing that in the wrong way.
Yeah. And it's just like it's that evolution, isn't it, of your business, like actually going with the flow. And if something doesn't feel right, you get to change it. Like when you're running your own business, there's no one above you. Like there's no rules that you have to
Right.
abide by.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like, you learn also, like I said earlier, you don't stand for certain things and what you don't want to do. And the retail was that when I left, was like I said, this isn't the life I want. This isn't what
Yeah.
I myself. And I used to work with people, again, like the kind of the car park thing, but it's like, I don't want to have behaviors like him. I don't want to make people around me feel the way I feel because he acts like this. That's not okay. And I see it, even there's a guy, Grant Cardone, in America, who does sales, and he's very, very Marmite, but I like him for certain things. I'm very conscious he says other things, and I'm like, that doesn't sit with me at
Yeah.
all. It's not right. And that's like he was saying something about, basically, like, we can give excuses for money and we buy what we want, which is very true. But because I'm always saying to people, if your phone broke today, I'm pretty sure you'd find the money to buy a new phone, or if your car broke down, you'd find the money to make it happen.
Yeah.
That's just how we're tuned. Yeah, people don't have money. And I'm like, okay. So he said then something about, I don't care if you're disabled, crippled. And I was like, that's the line for me. So look, for him, again, it's a branding piece. And that's, he'll work both ways with that. For some people it works and it will attract people, and it'll also repel massively. And we have to do that. So we really have to break through that noise where it is noisy right now.
Yeah.
And some of that is what you don't stand for. And we can learn just as much in that too, and is important. But we have to stand by that with confidence and conviction. And sometimes it will work for us, and also sometimes it won't. And we can only learn from that.
Yeah. And the final thing I just wanted to touch on is like how you can tell if your messaging is working. I guess that's pretty straightforward in that you're going to be making those sales or getting that engagement on social media. But is there another underlying thing where you can actually measure the success of your messaging and what is and isn't working?
Like, your sales metrics are everything, right? And knowing your numbers. And again, people don't know some of the basics of numbers to be
Yeah.
looking at and targeting for. Like, what's your sales target each week? I used to have a sales target every day in the corporate world, and then people hate sales in running a business. It's like foreign language sometimes. I'm like, but it's fun. Like, why do you not want to have a target and go for it?
Yeah.
I'm also very results driven, but your numbers are everything, so you've got to get close to those. But also then that level, you can fight the algorithm of reach and engagement, and they're two different things for sure. Or you can just really look at the strong goals. You need some strong goals for sure. And again, that's always kind of just assumed sometimes, but people don't really goal set well enough. So we've got to have really strong goals that link to the vision and where we are, and get close to those. So the numbers is a key one. Your sales is absolutely that one. But down to the targets of, like, how many clients you want on, etc. What does that look like? And then routing that down to a weekly thing and a
Yeah.
target. I think if you start anywhere and measure, you will start to see the number of conversions change when you start having more conversations with people about what you do. And again, people say it and they're like, oh yeah, I'll do it. And they don't do it because,
Yeah.
again, it's, people hate that. They don't want to talk to people and feel uncomfortable. And they don't want to walk into a networking event and nobody knows them. And it feels like they're in school again. Like, you've got to lean into being uncomfortable and
Yeah.
normalize that feeling. So I think that, again, we can make it really complicated and I said you need this and this and this matrix, or we can keep it super simple. You've got to have very strong goals aligned to your vision of where you want to be. You've got to have very good values. You've got to have some sales targets and know your conversions and things, and start to build on that, because you just have to start. But none of that is able to come if you haven't got people that are coming through who you're attracting and having those conversations.
Yeah.
So I think targeting, they've got to be the right conversations. It's not about smashing the DMs. You've got to be in more conversations and building your audience and having some targets around that. Like, how many people are you speaking to each day? I target myself at least 20 people. And then I'll go through in terms of, looking at my leads tracker. I always say that very loosely, because leads are people, they're humans, but I follow up with people. The gold
Yeah.
dust is follow up. So if you're not where you want to be on that, there's probably some work you've got to do on your sales.
Yeah. I think following up is one of the things that so many people struggle with, because you feel like you're chasing and pestering.
Yeah.
Actually, if you're already having a conversation with them, like, there's actually no
You're
harm
just
at all.
busy.
Yeah.
That's it. Like, I'm busy, and it's like, but it doesn't mean, like, sometimes I'm like, oh my God, thanks for coming back to me. Right, it's on my agenda. Just bug, and I'll say to people, if I haven't come back to you, come back to me,
Yeah.
bug me, like, demand my time, to the point where I'm like, leave me alone. And I'll
Yeah.
say that to somebody. I don't say I don't have money for things. I'll say it's not a priority right now for me. Like, there's some personal things around moving and stuff like that, and being my partner and I, there's some personal things there with financials this year. So that's different to what I'm going to invest in around the business from the last 2 years. That's
Yeah.
okay. I'm happy to say, like, it's just not a priority. I'm not got money. It's not a priority to me.
Yeah.
And then that's the same as well in business. So yeah, it's
Yeah.
I think we can make it a lot harder. It's probably the theme from today for me here a bit, that we just keep it super simple, get great people around you, know what you're working towards, because it's going to be hard at times, and you've got to make it, you've got to enjoy it, and it's got to be fun, and we've got to have joy in
Exactly.
our lives too. And being around the right people is always one of my keys to success. It
Yeah.
really does change the game. You think differently, you start seeing the world very differently,
Yeah.
and
It
that's why I
changes your
recruit last
energy
year.
level and everything, doesn't it? So,
Yeah, like you said before we came on, like going away and things, having that time out, having time to connect with real friends. And I remember my mentor saying, those friends that you've had from years ago, like, treasure them. And I do treasure mine. Like, I literally count on my hand. I don't have loads, but I adore them. They're like brothers and sisters. They're that
yeah.
close to me as friends. I know that if I woke up one in the morning and I need them, they'd be there. Those are the kind of friends that you need. And they've got no idea what I do, my business.
Yeah.
They're like,
Yeah.
it's a
Same.
joke at Christmas. Where it was the game we were playing, and they said, who would go viral on social media, or who's most likely to, and everyone looked at me, and I was like, no, but because they don't get what I do, they just
Yeah.
always see me on socials. But I need that around me, because I
It's
just want to.
refreshing, isn't it?
Yeah, and it is, and it's not. I had a bit where I felt last year that it kind of takes away any integrity, and that I'm two people, and it's not. It's just that we don't have to show every
Yeah.
wart and all. We are also just people that crash, that don't wear makeup and just chill in our pajamas all day at times as well on the sofa with
Yeah.
a duvet, like, unless
It's
you're
the
my dad,
same
who
in the
doesn't understand
corporate
that.
world. Like, you
It's
don't,
exactly the
how you
same.
are at work was not how you were at home.
No, and it's exactly the same. So I think when you get the right people around you that get that are compassionate as well, and they just want to see the good for you. They believe in you. Belief's a big thing for me.
Yeah.
Sometimes I say, if you haven't got a belief, I'll have it for you. But I think that's massive for people right now, because we're in a state, economy wise, where people lack belief. So we have to identify that and just
Yeah.
and help people and guide them on that way, meet them where they're at, that they may not be ready yet, but how can you help them? What could you give? I really do believe in what Tony Robbins said around, like, the secret to living is giving, that we can just be kind,
Yeah.
um, and that can path the way as well. You never know where that takes you. Everyone's like, oh, they said no, and it's like, well, it's a no for now. Like, you never know.
Yeah.
I get loads of no's all the time in sales, but I also get people that, like, still follow. I had a no on the last week, and it was a pretty, like, substantial investment they were going to make, but they said, oh, I know we're going to work together still, and I was like, that's okay, like, it's fine.
Yeah.
What do you need right now from me, and how do we keep this relationship going? If you want to, just let me know and we'll move on from that. But yeah, I think when we can approach business in a way of good intent as well, and all of these things are identity. It's all building a
Yeah.
brand, it's all the business. It's how, again, it's how you show up, it's how you do your business, it's how it's your reputation, it's what you're known for, it's how people speak about you behind closed doors, it's how they refer you. Like, you've got to know the answers to those questions, because people are doing it right now. And if everyone's going around going, she's this, she's that, or he's that, he's that, the same as the lead, like we said, the corporate world, like, so I don't want to be that. And like,
Yeah.
what do you want to be known for? These questions are important, and sometimes they're hard to answer.
Yeah. And sometimes it might take you time to work on that. It might be something that you
Yeah.
come back to again and again, because actually what you thought you wanted to be known for, like even a few months ago, might be different now. And that's okay. Like, you can change and evolve. It's not right, done, and I don't need to worry about that
Yeah,
anymore.
it's interesting, like, where does that pressure come from? And that
Yeah.
expectation. I remember at Christmas talking to my mum or something. She was like, "Oh, well, don't people worry about this and this?" And I was like, "Against who?" I was like,
Yeah.
"Whose expectations are we talking about
Yeah.
here?" I said, "I don't want that." And why do you want that? She's like, "Oh, I don't know, but don't you think that it's better this?" And it's like, no. So, like,
Yeah.
where do we, like, challenge? Where does that come from? Where is
I
that?
wonder if it's from school, I think,
A
for a lot
lot of
of
it can be.
people. Because like the age of 16, you're pressured into, right, you need to fill in this form, that form, you
Mm.
need to just sort of like, what are you going to do with your life? What qualification do you want to have? Because where do you see your business going? You think as a 16, 17, 18-year-old, like, how can you possibly know what you really want to do when you're older? Because your life is going to completely change as you grow up. And I think that pressure that is put on us as young adults is so huge that actually you feel like you need to have everything nailed. And like, I pivoted slightly last year and even again the beginning of this year. Like, I'm 38, like I'm still changing where I'm going. You don't have to have this set in stone path that you feel like you have to take with your business.
Yeah, it's like The Pursuit of Happiness, isn't it? I love that
Yeah,
film. But the pursuit is your pursuit. And again, that's like, again, I've said 3 times now. It's why I went at the corporate. I was like, I don't want this life. That's not what I want. That's not purpose to me. And
yeah,
Bronnie Ware has this amazing book of the 5 regrets when you're dying. And the number one regret that she did with people when they're in palliative care is that you have lived a life of that's not meaning to you and is of meaning with others. And yet we still do it. We're still in this autopilot. We're still in this routine of Monday to Friday, 9 to 5, all this rubbish. I don't personally want to run my business like that. And I
yeah,
did a lot of work with my mindset coach, Renee, who's phenomenal, last year on freedom and like what that meant to me, and time freedom, and my challenge of money for time and stuff, since like money came in the corporate world and then it went out, and like business doesn't run that way.
yeah,
And, I really had to unpack a lot around, I have freedom right now. I'm not seeking it. I'm not on a pursuit of it. I have the ability to go, I'm going to go to the gym today. After this podcast, I'm going to go for my run. I'm going to come back, then I'm going to grab a coffee, chill, and I'm going to crack on with some work. It's a Saturday. I want to do that. So I
yeah,
don't care if people going, oh, have a weekend off, or oh, you work too hard. I love it. That's what I
yeah,
want to do. I want to be able to go pick my niece up from school if I have to. I want that flexibility.
yeah,
I don't want to have the pressures of what other people expect of my life, because I just feel like I'm going to have a life in time that I felt isn't of purpose and of value. And
exactly,
you have to manage your expectations with that. That could mean I have less at some things, and it could mean I also have more. I think the latter, but um, I think we've got to really, again, that's where it goes back to pen to paper. What's the vision of the life you want? What do you really want that to look like? How are you sculpting and creating that? Some people say design your life, or that type of thing with your business.
yeah,
Have to do that work. It's really important, because it will hold you back. And the reality is, there is nothing that's set in stone. So like you say, even with that, you're still going to get things that change, and that's okay. But you'll be better set to manage and deal with those challenges when they present themselves. And like you just said there, you're more confident. Like, I've had a pivot recently to like last 6 months with this messaging, but the reality is I'm on it. I'm committed. I'm very good at certain things. I'm learning other things. It's not perfect. It's never going to be perfect in my head. It doesn't have to be.
yeah,
But my intention's good, my ambition's there, my drive's there. I've got good people around me, and I've got the passion and purpose behind it. So like, go for it. Who is anyone else to challenge you on that?
exactly. We get to decide, don't we? I love that so
Yeah.
much. Thank you so much, Natalie, for coming on today. If anybody wants to come and find you, where can they find you online? How can they work with you? Let us know.
Yeah, the best place right now is I've got a 5 ways to really look at your messaging, so that will help as well, which you can get at nataliepots.co.uk/message. So I try to keep that simple. But other things, I'm mainly on LinkedIn is my main platform. I can be on Instagram quite a bit as well. But really with that, again, it's like anything, and we all know that like don't just join and just sit there following. Just say, hey,
Yeah.
heard you on this, and hey, this really resonated, or hey, I completely didn't like it. Like, I'm happy for anything because we can learn from all of that. But like you literally have to connect and make like do something, bring it if you want. I think that's something that hit me yesterday at the event I went to was the change starts within you. That's probably, we can talk metrics, we can talk measures, all of this. If you want to change, you've got to take a look in the mirror
Yeah.
because it's sitting right within you to bring that right now.
100%. Thank you so much. I've put the
Well,
details in the notes as well with where you can find Natalie. Thank you again so much, Natalie. And I will be back for another episode of Becoming a Powerhouse Brand very soon. Take care, guys. Thank you for listening to this podcast episode. If you're ready to unlock the secrets of building your own personal brand, head over to my website, baileyandrue.com, where you can grab my free Brand Brilliance Blueprint today. It's your roadmap to success in the world of branding. And hey, let's stay connected beyond the podcast. Follow me on Instagram at baileyandrue for daily inspiration, behind the scenes insights, and exclusive content to fuel your brand journey. See you there.